What a moment! The BMW R18 is finally here, and I'm feeling lucky because I'm one of the first guys to ride this bike. I got the key over here. It says it's the first edition. It's a special moment, and before everything I want to turn on the engine. Everything looks super clean and super premium on this bike. Everything you touch feels very, very nice, and everything is very well put together. I must say that I'm impressed about it. And this bike resembles the old R5, which was a bike created by BMW almost a century ago. And there's just one thing that is breaking the perfection: these cables that are going to the turning lights over here. But that's all. There are two things that you should know about this bike. The first one is that it looks better in person than in pictures, and the second one is that it's even better to ride it. This bike has something special to give you. It has this engine, this big boxer engine, the biggest ever produced, and it offers some massive torque. It's not about the horsepower, no, it's just about the torque. It's incredible how easy it is to steer this bike, how nimble it is, and that's because it comes with this boxer engine, which keeps the center of gravity pretty low. So thank you very much for subscribing to our YouTube channel. It's very, very important for us, and if you want to support us, there's also a link in the description below. We created a Patreon community, so join us over there. Take a look. This bike is built for the long straight roads like this one, for the highways in America. But if you want to go on twisties, for example, you can do it because it's nimble, but still it's a heavy bike. It has 350 kilos, so it has the same weight as a Honda Goldwing. It's a bit heavier than the BMW K600 GTL, and it's also heavier than the Harley-Davidson Fat Boy. And of course, having this weight means that you have to work a lot with the bike. You have to work with the brakes, you have to work with the throttle. I'm gonna say it again, this bike needs a quick shifter. Anyway, I had a lot of fun today, and you must have in mind that when having a lot of fun with this bike on the twisties, you're gonna scratch with the foot pegs on the asphalt pretty quick. The throttle response, it's also very precise. It's a very nice to ride bike, and obviously it's a ride-by-wire system, and it is not twitchy, it's not snatchy, it's as it should be. It's very, very good and precise. Now we have to discuss about the riding position, obviously, because something's different over here. This is not a V-twin, it's a big boxer, so you cannot get a foot forward riding position like something like this one. You have to stay like this with the foot pegs that are mid-mounted somewhere at the center of the bike. But for me it was not a problem today. This riding position is reminding me of the Honda Goldwing, and I couldn't say that the Honda Goldwing is not a comfortable bike. No, the Honda Goldwing is a comfortable bike, and this one over here, the R18, is also a comfortable bike. On the other hand, I'm not a cruiser rider. I'm used to touring bikes, sport touring bikes, adventure bikes, but as I told you, I'm just okay with this riding position. And I have 174 centimeters, which is 5 feet 8. I spent the whole day riding like this and I have nothing to complain about. What I also noticed, but not at the beginning, at about one day of riding, is that your inner leg is just against the intake pipe. So for some of you it might be a bit annoying. For me it's okay, but I can feel it after a day of riding. It's nothing that bothers me too much, but I can feel it right there, so I don't have enough room for my inner part of the leg. The ergonomics are just fine. The handlebar has the right position. It's wide enough, but it's not too wide. Everything feels natural, everything feels relaxed, and I feel like I could spend another day riding like this. The suspension is on the firm side and it feels good, it really does, but when you get on the bumpy roads, the rear shock, which is very nicely hidden over here, well, this bike, let's put it this way, this bike looks like a hardtail and it feels a bit like a hardtail. I mean, when you see some bumps in the road, you should slow down a bit. On the other hand, I like it because this bike is very stable on the highway and it feels very nice in the corners. I mean, you can really ride it fast. It won't take you wide, it won't wobble, it won't do anything you don't want to do. So it's very precise, and it's a bit amazing considering how heavy it is, and considering that is a cruiser, and considering everything. It rides pretty good. This bike looks like a gentleman and it will make you ride it like a hooligan, and that's mainly because of that engine over there, the big boxer, the BMW signature engine. Actually, BMW started producing bikes with this engine and it looks lovely, it looks very elegant, and it keeps some elements from the old boxers. You have the push rods over there. It's the way it looks, basically, but it feels like a modern engine. It has nothing to do with the old ones. Okay, it comes with that feeling. It pulls a bit on the right side when you twist the throttle, but that's it. Other than that, it pushes like insane. It feels very fine. And about the vibrations, because it has some vibrations at 1000 RPM when keeping it in neutral. After that, it's gonna be just fine. After 2000 RPM, between 2000 RPM and 4000 RPM is the sweet spot. At 3000 RPM you have the maximum torque, and after that it's gonna start to vibe a bit. If riding on twisties and if you're busy with handling the bike, it's gonna be okay, but if riding on the highway and if having nothing else to do than sitting on the bike, you're gonna start to feel some shivering in the seat from 3000 RPM on, and it's gonna get worse and worse and worse until 4000 RPM, when you're gonna get vibes also in the handlebar and in the mirrors. In the 6th gear on the highway at 2700 RPM, where there's no vibe, you're gonna have 75 miles per hour, something like that, which is 120-130 kilometers per hour, so it's basically okay. But at 150-160 kilometers per hour, you're gonna start and feel the vibes. Now, this is a BMW, so it comes with a lot of stuff, a lot of electronics to make your ride more comfortable and to protect you. And we're gonna start with the safety side, and we're gonna start with the brakes. Obviously, it comes with the mandatory ABS, and I would like to say that the braking power is pretty good considering the weight of this bike. You're not gonna get an aggressive bite from the front end, but you have enough stopping power, and I think the brakes are better than in many cases when we're discussing about the cruisers. Besides that, this bike comes with 3 different riding modes, and this is a funny thing because usually BMW has the rain mode, the road mode, and then the dynamic or dynamic pro, enduro pro, and so on, depending on the bike. Now, this bike has rain, roll, and rock. How cool is that? Obviously, on the rain mode you have a softer power output, the roll mode is somewhere in between, and the rock mode gives you all you wish for, all you want to have fun. And I used it mainly on the rock riding mode, and it has that traction control that works really good. It reminds me of the sport touring bikes from BMW, because it kicks in a very smooth way. It lets you slide just a bit. It happened to be yesterday, and after that it kicks in, but is not very aggressive. It has a smooth intervention, so you have to watch the dash in order to see the traction control. I really love this electronics package. This round classic shaped headlight is LED, and it looks very nice, and it comes with cornering lights as an optional feature as far as I know, and it gives you enough amount of light to travel during the night. You don't need auxiliary lights for this one, and I'm really pleased about it. Among the other stuff on the optional list, I also have the reverse for this bike, which is a nice to have, but it's not necessary, it's not compulsory for this bike, because the ground clearance here is low and you can easily maneuver the bike even if you're gonna park it in an awkward position. Last evening I took a ride with this bike in the city, and it was the rush hour because I wanted to see how it really feels. And it's impressive because it's such a big bike, but it's more nimble than you might think of. And all you have to do is to have in mind that you got this big engine over here, and if you want to do some lane splitting, you know, if you want to go between the cars, and if you are allowed to do that in your country, you must have that in mind. It's as wide as the handlebar, but if changing the line, you have to be very careful. This is a bike that you have to make it yours, not just to buy it, and that's why BMW came up with a lot of accessories to transform it into, I don't know, into a bobber, into whatever you want. You have different wheels, different handlebars, different seats, different exhaust. You have a lot of accessories in the catalog. There's one thing that you have to keep in mind. If you want to buy it custom, you cannot do that. You cannot buy it as a bobber. You have to buy the basic version, and after that to put the accessories, to put the parts on. Now, after my first ride with the BMW R18, I must confess that I fell in love a bit with this bike. And that's because, first of all, it's very beautiful. I think it's one of the most beautiful bikes on the market right now. But it's not just that, because yeah, it's beautiful, but there are many beautiful bikes out there, and it's really fun to ride, it's pleasant to ride. You feel nice when you're sitting in the saddle and ride this bike, because it's powerful. It has this boxer which gives you a low center of gravity, and it's nimble. All of these put together are giving me what I want from a bike.